when you're driving down the road and you have your hands on the wheels like this, and let's say there's a hazard or another car coming or a child running out in the street or something like that, and they're coming from this direction over here, so they're coming at you from this way, and you're looking at them as this is happening, your hands on the steering wheel will go like this to turn away from that hazard. So your head is doing this motion while your hands are doing this motion, turning away from that threat. Now, if you were to take your hands and turn them like this, like say they're on a handlebar of a motorcycle, now what happens when there's a threat coming from that direction or that direction, but there's a threat coming like this, and you decide that you're going to turn your handlebars away from the threat like this, just like you would in a car, then what happens? Well, when you're at speed on a motorcycle, you're not going to go right, you're going to go left. So basically you're steering directly into the threat, whatever it may be. So when you do that, trying to avoid a threat on a motorcycle, what your instincts are telling you to do is to steer away from the threat, and that's completely wrong to do that on a motorcycle because you're going right into it. Same thing can be said if there's a threat coming from the right, coming this direction, and you try to turn away from the threat from the right on this direction. What's going to happen now? Your bike's going to lean over and you're going to go directly into that threat you're trying to avoid. So to me, that's how I make sense of it. When you're trying to steer away from a threat on a motorcycle, you want to do the exact opposite of what your instincts are telling you to do, which is what you've learned to do basically from driving a car. So, how is it that you train your brain to not target fixate? Well, here's a little something that I've been doing ever since I started riding, and I don't even remember who told me to do this, but I might have seen it in a YouTube video or something somewhere. When I'm out riding around, I don't keep my head facing forward all the time, looking exactly where I want to go all the time. And we're just over here cruising around in parking lots and back roads today, in parks and things like that, because I don't want to be doing this out in traffic. It's just not safe to do it. What I do is I'll look around a lot while I'm riding, and I try to keep my focus centered fairly well when I'm recording videos and things, just so it's not too disorienting. But for demonstration purposes, here's what I do. Now I'm going to run the stop sign. This building not even open anymore. I'll drive around and I'll look at stuff. You know, I'm looking at that door right there that had a security camera sticker on it. I'm looking at these bushes over here, the back of that stop sign. I'm looking at that door, turning my head, looking at these fine police officers that are, I don't know, talking about drinking coffee or some shit. So I'm looking at different things. I'm looking at all the pine cones on the ground over here, the fire hydrant. I'm looking at that pole. Now, all the while I'm doing this, I'm trying to train my brain to not always go where I'm looking. You know, if I'm looking over here and I want to go there, I can look over there and I could still go over here. So you're basically trying to retrain your brain to be able to do what you do naturally in a car. Now, you don't want to get into the habit, though, of looking around too much and staring off into space and not paying attention to where you're going. You obviously want to pay attention to where you're going, but is it really that hard to do when you're driving a car? No, it's not. Because when you're driving a car, it's like intuition. You know, it's second nature after you've been driving for a while to just be able to drive straight down the road and, you know, look at things, enjoy the scenery, hang out and talk to your wife in the passenger seat, because you know she's talking. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought on that one. So if you compare motorcycle handlebars to a steering wheel in a car, they're similar up to a certain point. So we're at low speeds here, and I'm at 5 miles an hour, just riding around in a circle, dragging the rear brake like you're supposed to at low speeds. leaning off the bike to the left because I'm going to the right. What that does is kind of puts the center of gravity more in line straight up and down with the motorcycle as you're doing it. But I'm going right and I'm turning the handlebars to the right, so I'm going right. Now if we go left, I'm turning the handlebars to the left and I'm looking left. See how that works? I'm turning left, going left. Turning right, going right. Keeping the bike in the friction zone the whole time I'm doing this. Now, I'm going to get it up to about 10 miles an hour and see what happens. Okay, we're at 10 miles an hour. Now I'm going to turn the handlebars to the right. Now I'm going to turn the handlebars to the left. See how weird that is? What about at, like, let's say 5 miles an hour? I'm going to turn the handlebars to the right. Going right. Turn it to the left. Going left. To the right, going right. To the left, going left. So what happens somewhere, pardon me for a second, let this officer go by. So it happens at very low speeds. Turning left, going left. Okay, we'll try it at 8 miles an hour. Turning right, going left. Turning left, going right. We'll do 10 miles an hour, hands off the handlebars. That's where it loses stability. Right around 6 or 7 miles an hour. So you can do this experiment on your own bike and figure out where yours is at. Yep, right at 7 miles an hour. If you could see what the handlebars did there. Right at 7 miles an hour. That is where the counter steering threshold is on this motorcycle. Now remember, I'm not a motorcycle instructor or nothing like that. There are guys out there far better than me at explaining things. So once again, here's what we're discovering so far. Right at about 6 or 7 miles an hour, anything above that, the motorcycle will stay upright. Anything below 6 or 7 miles an hour, the bike starts to want to fall over. So what that means is anything above 8 miles an hour on this motorcycle, counter steering takes effect. Anything below that, steering takes effect. Okay? Counter steering. Now, you might be a little bit confused also by watching videos online. People talking about counter steering and doing demonstrations of counter steering and everything. They tell you how to counter steer, but what they don't tell you, a lot of them don't, is how much pressure is actually required to counter steer. So I'll show you that real quick by simply using one finger. Okay, 12 miles an hour, hand barely touching. That's how much pressure it takes. Barely more than a thought. Here's the nice thing about counter steering. It's just like breathing. Now what I mean by that is once you understand counter steering, it becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it. Like going around this corner up here, I'm looking where I want to go. So that's where I go. It requires very little input from the handlebars. So if you understand, basically steering is pretty much irrelevant on a bike when you're doing higher speed maneuvers, riding down the road, going around corners, cruising around through parking lots, because even this, I'm counter steering right now. Counter steering right now. So steering input only applies, but you're going to have to do this on your own bike to figure out where it's at. It only applies at very low speed maneuvers. Now this is counter steering too, 14 miles an hour. See how easy that is? So here's something easy to remember counter steering. Push left, go left, push right, go right. Counter steering becomes second nature to you, and it becomes instinctive. But I'll go back on that little piece of advice that I gave before. What I do myself when I'm out riding, I look around a lot so I don't end up getting target fixated on a danger or a hazard or something like that. You know, I could be looking over there and go to avoid that hazard, and my body will instinctively do what it needs to do, because now I'm on a motorcycle, I'm not in a car. So you have to get that out of your head. If you've been driving a car for a while, what your instincts tell you to do in a car are completely wrong on a motorcycle. So you have to get used to the fact that counter steering is exactly what it says it is. You're steering in the opposite direction of the way you want to go. But just remember, it doesn't take much to get there. So I hope this little experiment that I've done kind of helped somebody else out there that might be watching this video, to help them understand counter steering and how it relates to target fixation. And I think if you practice the things that a lot of instructors will teach, you'll be a lot better rider, especially doing stuff, low speed maneuvers in parking lots and things. I spend a lot of time in parking lots just goofing around, and honestly it has helped me tremendously as far as being a better rider.